Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our New Zealand and Australia weather forecast as we track highs and lows that are bringing in all sorts of spring turbulence. But at the moment, in New Zealand, the air pressure is kind of flattened out a wee bit. We've got two big highs, one to the northeast and the other one to the northwest. Both of them are pulling in subtropical air. This one out here going right over around parts of Queensland and then sort of messy flow, but it does come out into the Tasman and eventually it reaches New Zealand. But this is the main warm airflow up here to the north. It's starting to move out to the east, but like I say, behind it, still mild air, which means the warmer than average weather in New Zealand keeps on going right through the coming weekend. It stops on Sunday for some in the south. But this is tonight's departure from normal, and really everywhere south of Auckland is leaning warmer than average. The areas in red, 4 to 8 degrees above normal. You saw the temperatures yesterday up in parts of Hawke's Bay and Gisborne, close to 30 degrees. Unbelievable. So tonight, the overnight low is around 13. That's fairly mild for this time of the year. And then we get into Friday, and the temperatures in the North Island not as hot as they've been for those in the east, but it still leans warmer than average on Friday. The South Island, though, much warmer than average, still over 8 degrees above normal around places like Queenstown as that warmer airflow continues on. The other feature we've got at the moment, UVs. UV rays coming through, ultraviolet rays. Now this shows the peak of the ultraviolet in the purple area, pink area to the north. Here is the equator. So back in September, this big blob of pink and purple, which shows the highest area of UV rays, was north of the equator. Now we're getting closer to summer in New Zealand. This is going to get further and further down. So these areas in Northland, if the sun is out or the clouds are light, this zone here has already got very high UV rays. Other end of the country, high. So it's worth keeping an eye on. If you go to ruralweather.co.nz, we have UV forecasts hour by hour, hyperlocal in your part of the country for 10 days out. Farmers and growers, those who work outdoors, should definitely be paying attention to this. Of course, if it's cloudy and raining, not so much of an issue, but you can still get burnt when it is cloudy. Let's get into the forecast, and as we get into Friday, yeah, it'll be fairly cloudy around large parts of New Zealand, so the UV rays won't be too significant unless the sun is out or those clouds are quite light, bright enough to put the sunglasses on. You can see those two highs I talked about. So this one's pulling down mild air. So is this high coming out of Queensland, Brisbane area and drifting into New Zealand as a storm comes into Tasmania with a colder change behind it. As we go into the weekend, it's windy westerlies coming back after a while. They haven't had them around for a while. So warm for the north of New Zealand. In the South Island, it's still warm, but it's a different airflow and it's more of your usual spring nor'westers ahead of a cold change. So Saturday night, the rain clouds come into the west coast and the western side of the North Island as well. By Sunday, that rain band is stuck over the North Island. Classic cold front. Couple of isolated thunderstorms are in there, and then you see that blue line that's measuring air thickness, and it shows the drier, colder airflow of the Antarctic region and Southern Ocean regions coming up and into the South Island. So we're going to feel those temperatures dropping quite a bit on Sunday. Meanwhile, in Australia, high pressure expands, but the cold front goes right up to Brisbane. So Sydney and Brisbane, you have temperature drops coming in this weekend. Let's move into the start of next week, and that rain band clears away from the North Island. It might take some time. You might have a fairly cloudy, drizzly start to the day. In the South Island, it's a bit windier and it should be sunnier as well. By the time we get to Tuesday, there's a big high rolling on in from the Tasman, and to the north, a very weak area of low pressure, which may or may not happen just like that. I say that because big high on that side, big high on that side. The best analogy I can come up with is if you imagine the high pressure zones as white sand on the beach, and this is the area trying to dig a little bit of a trench, that white sand just comes in on top and fills it in. That's basically what we're seeing here. This low here is going to struggle to form unless it can really separate a gap between those two big highs. Still one to keep an eye on though for the earlier part of next week. And Australia not looking too unsettled next week, in fact pretty hot as northerly winds come down here across most of the country, or at least the eastern half of Australia. That's all from me. We'll see you again on Friday with our next and final update for this week, and by the way, for the month of October.